Many modern vehicles no longer have a traditional dipstick for the transmission. Checking or servicing the transmission without a normal dipstick can seem like a mystery. I'm going to show you how to correctly check and service the transmission on a 2017 Nissan Armada. For this process, make sure the vehicle is level. You can check this by using a level on the running board as well as the rear bumper. We need it level so we get accurate fluid readings. Make sure the parking brake is engaged. And I will link to the fill plug and drain plug as well as the gasket for those in the video description. This is the gasket. It's the same crush ring on the engine oil drain plug, and it goes on the transmission drain plug. There is the fill plug. It's a hex 5 millimeter, and I believe this drain plug is 17 millimeter. So using my Allen key to remove the fill plug, just verifying that the fill plug did come out. Just a small amount of fluid comes out of the fill plug, and you can put that back. Just hand tight. Then we can remove the transmission drain plug. And there's the old fluid coming out. Notice the old crush ring and inspect the fluid. This will take a while to drain out. Get about 4 quarts or so. And you could reuse this drain plug, but it was looking kind of weathered. So I just went ahead and replaced it. After removing it, I don't think I really needed to, but we got the new one, so I'm gonna go ahead and use the new drain plug. Every time you remove the drain plug, you're gonna wanna put a new crush washer in there. Here's the old drain plug with the used crush washer and the new one. Make sure you're not cross-threading this and that you're putting it in correctly, and then tighten it down to 25 foot-pounds of torque. So now we can remove the fill plug. In order to utilize this fill plug and fill it with transmission fluid, we need to buy this special adapter piece that allows us to put the transmission fluid into the transmission. I will link to all the products used in the video description. This hand pump comes in the wide mouth as well as the traditional quart bottle. Of course, I only had the quart bottle one, so I modified the quart bottle with a hose to maintain pressure for the hand pump. Once you get the fluid started, it's an easier flow, and you want to keep that hand pump higher. You can see me having a little bit of trouble, but eventually it does go. Now I'm filling it with the second bottle of the Nissan Matic S transmission fluid, which is what this vehicle calls for. And just keep pumping. My modified pump left some leftovers, so I just put it in the next bottle. Here is the old fluid. You can see how much darker it is than the new Nissan transmission fluid. I'm glad I changed this. The vehicle has about 106,000 miles on it, so it was due for a change. As I'm finishing pumping the third bottle in, I'm just seeing if it's full in the pan at least, and you can see it is. But I am gonna overfill the pan because a lot of that fluid will get sucked up into the transmission, and we'll have to end up pumping more in anyway. And we actually have to check it with the engine running and being down here at the pan. So I'm actually gonna try to pump 4 quarts of fluid. And it can be hard because it wants to fall out of this fill plug, but by filling 4 quarts of fluid, you're actually gonna save yourself some time in the end. So I went ahead and closed that fill plug with my Allen key, and then I started the vehicle. You only need to run it for about 2 minutes to cycle all the transmission fluid, but I'm gonna go for a quick drive and just cycle through. If I could cycle through 6 gears in 2 minutes, I could, but I can't in my neighborhood. I can get it up to 4th, so I'm just gonna cycle through all those, turn around, just drive for a couple minutes. Now there's about 10.5 quarts in the system, but doing this will only get out about 4 quarts at a time, so we're only changing less than half the fluid. So we actually have to do this multiple times. That's why I'm kind of skipping a step here. Normally the engine would be running right now, and none of this fluid would be coming out because we would actually have to fill it up. But since it's not running, it's all falling into the pan, and I'm just gonna drain it now because I need to do another round of this, and then accurately get the temperature of the transmission to accurately get the level, which I'll go into, so stay tuned. But anyway, this is just the first round. About 4 quarts of transmission fluid have been drained this far. Now the engine is off, and you can see the fluid is actually a little bit more red falling out of the fill plug. And same thing as before, this will only drain out of the fill plug a little bit. Now I'm gonna crack open that drain plug and drain out the rest of the fluid that falls into the pan. So you can see it's gotten slightly more red, but still pretty dark. And I'm just gonna let that all drain out. You can almost see through it, not quite. I'm removing that old crush ring and putting on another crush ring. And now I'm putting the drain plug back in. So now that the fluid has been drained twice and the drain plug has been tightened down to 25 foot-pounds, I'm pumping more of that Nissan transmission fluid in. After I've pumped in the fluid, I'm going to very quickly remove the adapter and put that fill plug in so that I minimize the amount of transmission fluid loss. Just closing that up. Now using my thermometer just to take a temperature of the transmission pan, 80 degrees. That should give me enough time to get it up to the correct temperature. And I'm going to cycle through all the gears again. When doing the final fluid level check on this transmission, the transmission fluid needs to be at 104 degrees. So I'm going to take an average of the pan, taking the low temperature and the high temperature and one in the middle and averaging those all together until I get about 104 so that I know that that's, the accurate level. So with the vehicle running and the fill plug open, you can see that there's no fluid falling out, which indicates that the level of fluid is not high enough. We need to put more in. I really learned my lesson because I didn't overfill it. I should have, that I had to keep putting fluid in with the engine running, dragging this process out longer than it needed to be. In the end, you're gonna wanna overfill it and let just a little bit drain. And depending if you let the transmission fully drain, you might be able to pump in 5 quarts. So I'm just using the hand pump to pump it in, about a full another quart. And I can see now that the temperature rose too high and it still needs more fluid. So I'm just gonna turn it off after I pump in a good amount more fluid and then let the transmission cool down for a little bit and then kind of go through this process again. After getting up to about 120 and letting it sit for a couple hours, I now got it down to under 100 and I'm gonna try to go through this process again, turning the vehicle on, going through the gears, making sure it stays at 104, opening the fill plug and letting it drain out until it's just a slow drip. And I'm just going through reverse and drive and neutral at this point, and then leaving it in park. So now I'm undoing that fill plug and I'm expecting to see some fluid drip out. And I was actually disappointed because none of the fluid came out. So I had to put more fluid in yet again. So this process is taking quite a while, letting it cool down, putting in more fluid. Kind of learned my lesson to overfill it. Now I'm taking a temperature reading. It is too high again. But this time I finally pumped in enough fluid, I believe, about just over 4.5 quarts. And I believe there will be enough to go through this process yet one more time and get it at the correct level. So the third time will be the charm here. I let it cool down for another couple hours, got it down to under 100. Now I'm gonna turn it back on because you have to check the fluid level with the engine running. So it should creep back up to 104 and I'm just gonna put it from park, reverse, neutral, drive, back into park. And now we're finally gonna get our correct fluid level. The scan tool I have can't read transmission temperature in this instance, but that would be the best way to get the transmission temperature. That's why I'm using my thermometer to get it just under 104. Now the fluid's draining out with the engine running. I'm just gonna let that happen until it slows down to a drip. And I'm gonna close off that fill plug and just get it nice and snug. If you could get 4.5 or even 5 quarts in that drain pan, you might be able to do this in one round of fluid checking. When buying the fluid, plan out how many times you're going to do this. Each time you drain 4 quarts, you're getting a reduced return on putting the new fluid in. I will link to the transmission fluid in the video description. I would do this at least 2 times. If you're at 100,000 miles, you might even want to consider doing it a 3rd time. If you found this video helpful, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. Any additional links will be provided in the video description. If you have a question at all, leave a comment and I'll do my best to get back to you.